Art historians have overlooked women artists for centuries. My work focuses on one such forgotten artist and her most monumental work. Nun Plautilla Nelli painted the Last Supper around 1568. Thanks to the Advancing Women Artists Association, the painting's 450 years languishing in storage ended in 2015. The painting is now on permanent display in the refectory of the Santa Maria Novella in Florence. Nelli's Last Supper occupies a unique place in the tradition of Florentine refectory decoration. However, many scholars have disregarded Nelli's work because of her lack of formal artistic training. I will argue that Nelli, in her depiction of the Last Supper, changed the traditional iconography so that it was more relevant to her and her fellow nuns. Nelli is the only known Renaissance female artist to have painted a Last Supper scene. Her work combines traditional Last Supper imagery with novel iconographical changes that reflect the influence that being a nun had on her art. While my work dives deeply into this evidence, including how Nelli followed precedent with the placements and gestures of Judas and the apostles, for this presentation I'm going to focus on her depiction of food. Scenes of the Last Supper are mealtime scenes, and therefore food is a central component of all Last Supper paintings. The traditional foodstuffs were bread and wine, which Nelli included following precedent. This artistic inclination was natural to follow, as it made sense to represent the Eucharist items in the very scene that the Eucharist was announced as a new ritual by Jesus. Nelli, however, added elements that went beyond such traditional imagery. Her atypical additions are lettuce, fava beans, and a whole roast lamb. The presence of the lamb at the original Last Supper is contested due to conflicting biblical accounts. While Mark and Luke both mention the sacrifice of the Paschal lamb, artists rarely depict it because John's Gospel records that the meal took place during the preparation for Passover. So why would Nelli choose to paint a whole lamb? She likely included it for its symbolic representation of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. Nelli's lamb also defies the rules of perspective. It is shown to us in its entirety and seems to hover above the platter. This detail further connects the lamb to the divine. Nelli's sisters would have understood this allegorical reference when gazing upon the painting, as Christ had for a long time been associated with the sacrificial lamb. However, there is additional nuance to Nelli's inclusion of the lamb that applies to Dominican religious practices specifically. One of the rules for Dominican nuns was that when they ate meat, it would be the single cooked dish provided for the meal. As the only cooked dish on the table, this lamb reflects that dietary rule. Nelli also portrays another rule, which was set out by the Directives, a regulation book written by Roberto Ubaldini, a Dominican friar at San Marco. According to the directives, the nuns were not allowed to eat with forks, which is why the only type of utensil that Nelli includes is a knife. Nelli also paints another element that would have helped her sisters identify with the painting: exquisite Chinese porcelain. Although Dominicans followed a simplistic lifestyle, such porcelain bowls would have been accepted as gifts, probably from elite sponsors of the convent. Like fava beans, lettuce also held symbolic value to religious communities. As a result of the revival of humoral theory, lettuce was classified as a cold food, and so could temper any heat present in the body from sexual passion. Therefore, lettuce became a popular food for those who chose the religious life, priests and nuns included. By representing lettuce, Nelli was showing a common food that would have been served in her convent, one that reflected the nuns' shared vow of abstinence. Overall, Nelli's Last Supper exhibits novel and unique elements that reflect the peculiar ways convent life influenced her art. As a Dominican nun, she was encouraged to pursue art, a privilege rarely afforded to lay women of her time. She was also allowed access to other refectory Last Supper paintings, a privilege that neither most women nor men had. Her paintings provide contemporary viewers a glimpse into early modern religious life, including convent values and practices. Nelli's choices to include a whole lamb, fava beans, and 2 bowls of raw lettuce all served as visual aids to her audience of fellow nuns, reminding them of their shared values of sacrifice, devotion, austerity, and chastity. Thank you.